Game begin.
Hello and welcome to the Spike Colony podcast, the number one podcast amongst math deniers. I'm here with my co-host, the shrimp fried rice man himself, Michael J. Flores.
Why am I the shrimp fried rice?
Because it sounds like you fried a lot of rice with shrimp this week at Meetup. Playing still a good deck, apparently. The Stifle Knot combo control deck. Tell us about what happened.
Well, so I was up a couple points on SWB last week, and I played Stompy. And 2-0, going for the belt against SWB. He's playing his Oath Parfait deck. It was a hard-fought match. He commended me on getting game 2. I got a sideboarded game. This is a horrible matchup. He's got like Plow and Oath and Shard Phoenix. But he got me. So going into this week, I had a 1-point lead on SWB. So the way that it is I could have just not shown up and I'm locked for second. So the only reason is because Jeff Ferris moved to Portland, right? So Jeff Ferris finished on top at 55 points. At the end of last week is Jeff on 55, me on 54, SWB on 53, and then Bill Ellis is in nominal fourth at 40. So I could have just not showed up. I would have finished in second. Or I have to 3-0. Those are the only options. Don't show up second, 0-3 second, 0-1 second, 2-1 second, 3-0 first. SWB obviously came to play. He finished with 7 points on the night, 2 wins and a draw, time limit draw. That's what happens when you play Parfait. Lanny is a Parfait player. I'm sure you have this experience. And I knew that if I was going to play, I had to play for the 3-0. There was just no two ways about it. It's just, otherwise, I might as well do something else with my Thursday night. And I chose to play Mono Blue Dreadnought in order to get that 3-0. And it delivered. I posted a deck that you had some comments on that I did not make any of your changes, although they sound like they would have been better than what I played. I played the 4 AK in the main deck version with 2 Parallax Tides in the sideboard. And the 2 Parallax Tides were very strategically chosen by me because that's how many Parallax Tides I have that are not in the Replenish deck. So in order to play the 3rd Parallax Tide, which you suggested, I would have had to take one out of the Replenish deck. And that was too much effort. So I still got the 3-0. Essence Flare was awesome. I also won the belt with an off-brand Essence Flare play. It's pretty cool. AMA, Lanny, AMA.
Yeah, so what was it? You just put Essence Flares on Dreadnoughts to deal more damage?
2 Essence Flares I put on Dreadnoughts.
Shock mode.
Trample over. It was pretty cool. That was a really cool match. So,
what were your matchups 1 through 3?
Round 1, I played against Chris Cruz on Green White Oath, Oath Panza, the Thermocars type deck. Game 1, he mulliganed to 5 both games, so he was behind in material both games. Game 2, even though he mulliganed to 5, he played a first turn Carpet of Flowers, so it kind of didn't matter. He just always had resources as a result. So Carpet of Flowers kind of blanks my sideboard plan of Parallax Tide, but I did it anyway because at some point he just had 4 Rishodon ports in play, and it was super annoying. So I tided out to kill his Rishodon ports.
Yeah, I'm going to be brutally honest here. I don't think Carpet of Flowers is it in the Terravor Oath deck against Dreadnought because fundamentally you're still trying to win the game by attacking with Treetop Village, and Parallax Tide still answers with Treetop Village. And the spells that you cast with Carpet of Flowers are what? Just Sylvan Library? I'm trying to imagine the sequence where
getting completely brown.
Right. Instead of losing on the spot, you just still lose, right?
I sided in
because basically you can just play the Dreadnought side by being okay, I'm going to tide every manland, and then I'm going to counterspell Terravor, right? And then that's all you have to do, right?
I sided in 11 cards. I just only didn't side in Essence Flare, and I dominated twice.
Right, and
Like,
yeah, and then
dominate is
you have
insane
access
in
to
this matchup.
dominate, which is disgusting, and then the Dreadnought deck doesn't put a lot of lands into its graveyard, and the Ponza Oath deck still suffers from drawing 1 card a turn, while the Dreadnought player is drawing 10. And that's, I don't know. It just doesn't.
The problem I think Chris had was he couldn't side out all of his thermo cards. He didn't have enough. After the match, he was like, "Should I have just sided in Zurin Orb?" Right? It's just at one point he thermo cards or Winter Scraps me, and I just gushed in response. It was just like you just couldn't get them all out, and they're just not very good in the matchup. And versus like my sideboard cards, I brought in 3 Annul, 3 Dominate, Flash of Insight, 2 Kegs, and 2 Parallax Tides. Every one of those cards is basically like wins the game by itself, right? Like that's really powerful to say for sideboard cards.
Maybe we have to be. Well, I have a few comments. One is that you board out your Thermokarst and you board in Smokestack. That's one plan that can plausibly reduce the amount of lands the Dreadnought player has in play. Or you board in Xantid Swarm instead of Carpet of Flowers, and then you resolve all of your Thermokarsts.
Land days to come. Well, but the problem is that turns off Oath, right? So he's still
Oath isn't very good. Like Dreadnought has so many lines around Oath, not the least of which include Taiju, Chain of Vapor, the Oath, Dreadnought with Vision Charm, and then plus Stifle.
I had the line of letting him trigger Oath and killing him with, like, I drew three Vision Charms. I'm just like, I actually think that I can just kill him through the Oath
right, and
here.
you can mill. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you can just mill 12.
It just didn't come up because I had to dominate. So I dominated. He plowed. I actually Vision Charmed in response to gain more life from the plow. And it was. I mean, look, Chris was mulled to 5 in both games. And
yeah,
my sideboard cards are so robust. Like
Mox Diamond is also like a huge liability there because it's just more discarding cards. Like I would board out Mox Diamonds before boarding out anything else.
I mean, I did bring in Powder. I mean, Powder Keg is so good, right?
Yeah, Powder Keg is disgusting against Mox Diamond.
It's good against Mox.
It doesn't even really count as a hedge against Tide anyways, because like again, they just Chain of Vapor the Mox and then you discard another land to it, or I don't know. It's just everything's bad.
So look, we know green white or any kind of Ponza based Oath deck is a good matchup for this deck.
Didn't used to be. It didn't used to be.
Fundamentally,
it's not how people thought about it in the beginning. So it's pretty.
And also like I had an Annul for his Sphere of Resistance every time. That was the other thing. So like it wasn't, and I don't think it was super representative because both he had the first turn Carpet of Flowers despite mulling to 5, and then also he mulled to 5, right? So I think it is really hard for them in the sideboarding games because like. You can't not have all of your like Disenchant, Seal, Plow effects, and I only have like 2 Dreadnoughts after sideboarding. Like, I sided out my Mishra's Factories, so like the number of targets is so thin, and like it's not like you have Treachery, you have Dominate, right? Like it's really bad because like he's so over-indexed on point removal that he kind of has to have because he might just lose to a Dreadnought. But I don't even have that many Dreadnoughts, like it's the chances don't even have many targets. Like,
it's one of those matchups that like I think that the Oath Ponza player necessarily has to try to be a tempo deck because it's never going to win games where the Dreadnought player gets to cast Gush and Flash of Insight. And in your case, AK is just like absolutely disgusting. Like there was when the Ponza Oath deck came out, it was just like, oh, this deck is like pretty good against Tide and land still. And BK was just like, drawing cards has always beat land destruction. Like, why would this deck be good against those decks? And, there was like a variety of reasons. Like Port was really good and Sphere of Resistance was really good. And obviously you had like plenty of wastelands and these decks contained the card Standstill and you were basically better than, you had more utility lands than the Standstill player. But over time, a lot of the shine of the Oath Ponza strategies has just been lost because like every other deck has basically figured out a way to deal with Oath Ponza, and Oath Ponza has not changed anything about it in 2 years. Like it just is the same deck from V1 with no interesting card changes. Like none of the card, like
there's the green white version versus the
what you're just changing naturalize for swords of you're just changing a 1-for-1 removal spell with a different one for like nothing about it. The deck has transformed. The deck hasn't like gained a transformative sideboard plan or like a new angle to attach matchups. Like it's just basically the same thing. It's like game 1, it's an oath deck with prison stuff and Ponza, and then game 2 it sometimes has Call the Herd, like I think that in order for this deck to like be broken open again, it needs to like figure out something to do with the sideboard that isn't just swap out 4 bad cards for 4 cards that are slightly better than those bad cards and like re-roll again, but this time have like your opponent is like, oh, I know this matchup, I can break this matchup, I'm gonna board in ridiculous stuff, Thawing Glaciers, Dust Bowl, board in extra lands, board in Parallax Tide stuff, board out your creatures, board in plenty of mass Powder Keg, Dominate, that kind of stuff, and you're just like, oh, I'm boarding out 2 Pyroclasm and I'm boarding in 2 Naturalize. Let's go. Like you're just never going to win in the long term with that kind of strategy.
So that was my first match. Second match was against Yosef with Elves. I had turn 2 Dreadnought in game 1 and Gush foil. I had Gush double foil. So his answer to Dreadnought was survival. So I immediately foiled the survival. And then he drew into some answer and I just had another foil. And you don't need Dreadnought in play for very many turns to win this matchup in game 1. Game 2, I had combo in my opening hand on the draw and I only had 2 lands, and he played survival on the second turn, so I had to foil his survival, which cost me my second land, so I just didn't do anything for a while. And he had Tangle Wire, but the Tangle Wire also kind of slowed him down, so like I just drew out of it, and then I eventually just Vision Charmed his Tangle Wire, untapped, played Dreadnought, and I can now tap 2 permanents, just my lands, and attack with the Dreadnought twice. It was just the games that Elves wins, especially pre-sideboard games, typically correlate very closely to having survival. And if you just foil the survival, they're in trouble. And he just, I just had combo plus free counterspell both games. It wasn't not like super science.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, you can also just beat the survival draws because like. Best case scenario, they have white and battle mage. So on turn 2 with 3 mana, they go survival, and then they get a battle mage, and then you counter it or stifle it, and then they're like, okay, now I get a Nantuko Vigilante, and then you stifle it or counter it. Like it's still
they're dead.
The burden is still just having 2 counter spells, and in some cases, like you really have to be worried when it's like, oh, like. The survival hits the battlefield. They have 2 1/1s in play and a Gaia's Cradle. And then they might just be like, I'm not really worried about this disenchant nonsense. I'm just going to kill you faster than you can kill me. Good luck.
So, yeah, Yosef is a very seasoned legacy player, but a more recent migrant to pre-modern, although he's very good. He doesn't have a lot of experience with the Elves deck yet. So, I coached him on the Elves deck after the match, and he won all of the fun games that we played afterwards. But there was just basic things. He's just like, oh, okay, in this situation, I should just get the Nantuko Vigilante and then, be ready to kill your Dreadnought. And I'm like, why don't you just kill me? And he's just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you have two symbiotes, right? Like, you bounce this guy, get because he had no cards in hand. Just bounce this guy, get the Yavimaya Granger, get the mountain, bounce the Yavimaya Granger with the other symbiote, go anger into Deranged Hermit and attack me for lethal. And he's just like, oh, I didn't see that line. I'm like, yeah, Elves is the most complicated deck, but like this is a lethal line. You don't have to sandbag and just play for the Vigilante. I could get around that, right? Like I could potentially win the game. I could have a stifle. I could there's a lot of things that could happen, but you could just kill me here. And the fact that your survival resolved seems to indicate I don't have a foil, right? So, it's things like that. But he won all the fun games. But the 2-0 went into the books before that. And then the last round, playing for the belt, SWB had an unintentional draw. So he could have still won and then taken first place by 1 point. But I had Rich Busey for the belt with Enchantress. I won the roll. I had lost the roll in both of the previous 2 matches, but I won the roll, and I had Dreadnought jam on turn 2, so I went for it. Which, you go for it, I think, on the play, and I had double free spell protection, and he still got my Dreadnought. So it was at 32 life, and I had to rebuild, but he was behind from getting hit with the Dreadnought once, and I was eventually able to win game 1. Although, like, you really feel like you should win game 1 when you have turn 2 Dreadnought on the play with double free spell backup. But I did win. I did not win with the first Dreadnought. And then the second game was really cool. It was really interesting.
Well, I wanted to hold you because that's actually kind of interesting, because if you basically have those spots a lot when you're playing against Enchantress or Replenish type decks, where it's like there's only a few decks in the format that can beat like Dreadnought double backup, and they tend to be like I don't know, Landstill, decks with like lots, like I guess duress decks, that can go.
Or how about decks with Seal and Sword Supply Shares?
Yeah. I'm running down the decks that aren't like other decks. In the Enchantress scenario, it's actually kind of interesting because like if they have double protection, it's like they might not have a lot of stuff going on afterwards too, right? Like if they have Argothian Enchantress after like double removal, that's really good. But if they don't have Argothian Enchantress after double removal, like their deck sucks. Like the deck is just really bad if it doesn't have Argothian Enchantress. Like it's not a good removal deck. It's like a deck with 50 mana. So like, it's got 1,000 wild growths and more, it's got opalescences and replenish. Like there's a bunch of cards that just like kind of don't really excite. Like Miri's Guile and Exploration isn't going to dig you out of a hole if you like just had to answer a Dreadnought and you're drawing 1 card per turn.
So interestingly, after he got my first Dreadnought and put me to 32, I had to use my counter spells to like manage cards again, because he's not casting Argothian Enchantresses, right? He's casting removal to try to get rid of the Dreadnought. I think he drew Plow, Seal, Plow, right? And so now I'm like, okay, my Dreadnought's dead. I'm untapped. Just draw a counterspell. And I have to counterspell like 2 Enchantress effects, like in the next couple of turns, right? So I'm like actually kind of worried now, because I'm like, I just used 2 counterspells on Enchantress effects.
No, you can't. You no longer have access to Plan A, right?
Yeah,
Plan
I'm
1.
like, yeah. I have to win for real. I can't do the janky plan anymore. I don't have enough resources in my deck, right? Like, so, and I got there, but in part because I countered 2 Enchantress effects, right? And then I was able to reassemble.
Yeah.
And
you took the long way. Like you took the weirdly difficult way of beating Enchantress, where like you can hold off the Enchantress effects and they kind of gas out, and you have a lot more churn.
When you're playing the deck with 4 main deck, AK, and
AK will help.
That's a very different scenario than regular Dreadnought, which is just built to jam. Because I was able to outmaterial him in game 1, and I outmaterialed game 2 when he had multiple Enchantress effects.
Yeah, and these situations are honestly kind of underrated, where like you're either like people generally are like, oh, this is tempo game, this is card advantage game, right? It's like, oh, your tempo game got cut off, right? And then you're like, okay, now I have to play like a card advantage super long game. It's like you can spend like turns 5 through 9 like drawing 1 extra card per turn against your opponent, and if the 4 cards that they look at, like if 3 of them are blanks, which in the Enchantress deck it very well may be, like you could just be like, okay, I'll go for it again with 2 more counterspell backups or Vision Charm counterspell backup and see if you can get me here. And it's like, yeah, sure, maybe they've got 3 more Plowshares in their deck and 4 more Seal. They have all this stuff in their deck, but it's in their deck, right? It's not in their hand. And then you just kind of win the mid game in what I think many people don't really have a good heuristic for, of just like, this isn't scripted, right? We have 2 scripts. We have turn 2 Dreadnought win or counter all your win cons. Like the script of like, get your Dreadnought countered and then just sort of rebuild faster than they can while keeping them off balance. Like that's not there. We don't have like a word for that.
So, but I also think that that's a byproduct of a lot of the models that people have for Dreadnought are not this kind of Dreadnought, which is like a sideboarded Hootenanny blue deck that sides into the original Selden deck.
Well, I think you're underrating people's engagement with the deck, right? So Justin Provençal was playing this deck for months before and months after LobsterCon, and it's just because Dave Kaplan isn't playing it, it's quickly become, like,
so this is the default deck.
no, it's not default. It's just bifurcated, right? It's like there's people who play Kaplan. There's people who like. I think that basically not a lot of people like to play a deck that has Tide in the sideboard but doesn't have AK in the main deck, because I think it just like appeals to the same personality type of just like, oh well, if I'm going to sideboard in this Tide plan, I might as well have AKs, right? They're not like not many people are playing 2024 Raska Selden because they're just like, well, why don't I just go harder into this thing? And then people who are turned off by that are just like, oh, why don't I just jam? Like they're just like, they'll play similar to a Kaplan list or like a Phil list, like Phil was playing, the pivotless, no pivot Dreadnought, which, has its merits. I'm still pretty suspicious of it.
I like, so I was thinking, just to cut ahead, I didn't finish last night's, but I was thinking like, oh, well, what if I think about playing Dreadnought in the league finals, right? Now that I've locked myself in first again, like maybe I'll just play a mono jam deck, right? And you pointed out like the difference between a mono jam deck and the deck I played is 2 opts. Right? Like,
yeah.
Just get 2 opts in there.
A couple more dazes too,
Yeah,
sometimes there's a little bit more days, yeah.
So maybe we play the 4th daze and 2 opts.
For what it's worth, daze is really good on the play, but I would just be like, okay, why don't you just take the deck with 4 AKs and just play 4 dazes in the AK deck? And just be like, okay, if I draw my hand and I have dazes, then that rules.
But what Lanny pointed out to me before we started recording was just like, I'm the kind of person that looks at any hand that has like 2 islands and 2 AKs on the play, and I have now decided I've won the game, right? Like, nobody's beating 2 AKs. Like, if I have 2 AKs in my opening hand, I've won the game already. And he said, if you think that way, you should not play the mono jam deck. You don't have the discipline to play the mono jam deck,
Yeah.
But
yeah, the jam deck is not like island, portent, counterspell, gush, keep. Like, it's actually not. Yeah,
I'm never losing this game.
That's actually like literally one of. I mean, I don't know. We've been playing phone tag with Kaplan to try to get him on, but like I would be interested to hear what his thoughts are on this. But like literally, I think that this is correct. Again, math is dead, so I have no, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. But like, if your hand is like, island, portent, gush, counterspell, like just ship it and look for Dreadnought, because it's like that hand just does nothing so often, and so often your opponent, if they're up to anything, is going to like do that thing, and 1 counterspell isn't enough to stop them.
Duress you. They're gonna have like
they duress you. They take the gush.
Well,
it's like.
So the thing about it is I had 3 counterspells, 4 dazes in my deck for the longest time, because that's just what Kaplan had posted on TC decks. So I'm like, oh, 4 days, 3 counterspells, right? And like, I think like you and Eastside looked at me like, well, what's wrong with you? Why do you have 3 counterspells and 4 dazes? I'm like, Kaplan had 3 counterspells, 4 dazes, right?
This is actually a Fran era blue-white list that had 3 counterspells as well. And initially I was just like, counterspells like literally is just the best card in this deck. And it was like one of those things. I don't know if Fran said it. Well, I mean, he basically did say it by being like, oh, he only played 2 or 0 impulse in that deck, right? Of just being like, oh, now we're just too crowded at 2-drop. And like at the time I was just like, why do we care about being crowded at 2-drop? Like we're like, all that matters is that we have a Dreadnought and we have protection. And then, since then, understanding, like, at least my understanding of the deck has evolved to being like, oh, yeah, like, Opt is, like, one of the least impressive cards that you can possibly play in a deck,
if you're
to be honest.
Jamming on the play, Opt is good.
It's not good, though, right? Because what ends up happening...
I would just never keep these hands, though, right? Like, when you're just like...
Yeah.
All the Opt exploitive hands, I would never keep.
So, yeah, like, Opt is, like... Opt is good when the hand is like island combo Opt +1, right? So your Opt is meant to find like the second vision charm. So you might be like, oh, I'm going to combo on turn 3. But if you're sitting there and you're like island stifle Opt XXX, you're like, yeah. Then you're like, I really wish. But that's the thing is like, if the Opt was just like, I don't know, not an Opt instead, it's just like you would just ship that hand anyways, right? So it doesn't actually make that big of a difference. But again, I wouldn't use math to solve this. I would focus on vibes. Dead. Yeah, math is dead.
So anyway, my last round was against Rich. I made a cool play, which was Rich had a Xantid Swarm sideboard, but did not have Carpet of Flowers. So at some point I won the jam game in game 1, even though I did not win with the jam, right? And then game 2, I side down to 2 Dreadnoughts, and I'm gonna my game plan is I'm gonna lose game 2, and then I'm gonna side into 4 Dreadnought jam on the play in game 3, right? That's my modus operandi.
Yeah, and we talked about that following, LobsterCon, where we're like, I think the plan is no longer try to put up a fight.
And you can't put it. You just have to go for it, right? So, and then in game 2, like I'm just, fighting all of his Xantid Swarms and Enchantresses with kegs and stuff like that, and then I get to this spot where I could have like a pretty good Tide combo, and it's a Stifle Tide combo. So I even have defense if he has something along the lines of a Naturalize or Array of Revelation, right? So it's not a
God, I hope not Array of Revelation.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying, like, what team might he have, right? Like that's what I'm thinking. Because I think I blew my chain. I had to blow my chain to get rid of his Xantid Swarm because I was just like, his hand was just all gushes, right? So if he Xantid Swarms me, I can't even gush, right? So
you said like 10 things in a row that are just completely insane. First of all of the removal spells out of Enchantress are like sorcery speed. So if you Stifle Tide combo them, it's like the same thing as Stifle Chain because like
I'm just thinking what he might have.
Mike, I'm teaching you a lesson, right?
Okay.
I'm coaching you, right? So if you're sitting down across from Enchantress, like there's not a card in the Enchantress deck that they can cast at instant speed that removes a Parallax Tide, to my knowledge. They don't board anything like that in. And then the second thing that you said insane was that Xantid Swarm was stopping you from casting Gush. You don't cast Gush on your opponent's turn unless you're going to cast Foil along with it. Like if you're just chilling there with Gush, you just against Xantid Swarm, you just main phase it with 5 mana.
It's going to main phase tap 5 lands for Gush. They have a
Xantid Swarm in play. So like, the point was not don't Chain of Vapor the Xantid Swarm. Like don't Chain of the Vapor the Xantid Swarm so you can like slam Gush on their end step like a noob. Like come on.
Well, that's what I was doing. I needed to build material for my game.
You don't cast Gush on end step. How many times do I have to say this?
You don't just, if nothing else is going on, you don't tap 5 to draw 2.
You tap 5, but you don't pick up your lands.
Returning lands to Gush, Lanny. That's no way to win in a
Yeah. I just want to make sure. I just want to set the record straight that like Xantid Swarm holding back Gush doesn't really feel like a thing, because. I mean, you also don't like Gush to accumulate is also like super thin unless like if and only if you're in 5 cards in hand and like if the sequence is you have 6 lands, you go Chain of Vapor, this is Xantid Swarm, and you Gush end step. Like yes, of course. I'm just saying like the details here are important.
So anyway, I bounce his Xantid Swarm, and then he gets a Parallax Wave, so I'm like, all right, I just need to let this wave tick down, right? Like that's my plan on the wave, right? Like, and he has like a couple of enchantments, and he has 2 Wild Growths and Sarah Sanctum, but I go Tide Stifle and get a Sarah Sanctum and 2 Wild Growths. It's pretty good, right? Like, obviously any successful Tide combo is pretty good, right? But I get 4 lands, including 2 Wild Growths and a Sarah Sanctum. And he's left with like a Windswept Teeth that I don't break, right? Because I'm not gonna like just make him activate the Windswept Teeth. It doesn't make any sense, right? So he has Windswept Teeth, and he plays another Sarah Sanctum, and then he like plays a second Enchantress Presence, which I counter, right? And I know his wave is going to tick down. So then EOT, I chain his remaining Enchantress's Presence, and then play Dreadnought combo, and he's like goes to plow the Dreadnought with his Sarah Sanctum. I'm like, you don't have any enchantments in play.
Right, yeah.
He's like, oh no, and I'm like, Vision Charm resolves. Like, so now I have a very short window because I know he's gonna come back online. I just keep the enchantments off his side and slam all the flares onto my Dreadnought and attack for a bazillion damage, and then I got the last chip points in with Mistress Factory. I thought it was pretty cool. That was like a double time look. Because I knew that I'd need the Mistress Factory damage. Because I pinned his white by bouncing his Enchantress's presence.
You can also flare the Mistress Factory, right, and then falls off. And you could always flare the Xantid Swarm, but I'm guessing from how this game played out, you didn't have flare for Xantid Swarm at the time that he.
No. The Xantid Swarm was in his hand. I'd previously bounced it with a chain, right, and then.
This sounds like a very strange sequence. So it's like bounce, Xantid Swarm, hard cast, gush, tide combo into he. Doesn't crack the Heath to play Xantid Swarm, plays Sarah Sanctum with no mana, and then you go bounce.
No, he has enchantments at the point that he has Sarah Sanctum. I chained one of them was a wave that went away, and then one of them was I bounced with the chain.
Well, there's a point where he's got Windswept Heath in play and Xantid Swarm in hand. I feel like I would cast the Xantid Swarm.
I think he cast it to chump the Mistress Factory. Because he definitely chumped the Mistress Factory. The attack
right, but I'm just saying prior to your combo turn, right?
I might be getting some of the details.
And you can also, like, if you have Xantid Swarm, you can also seal cleansing the Parallax Tide sometimes. But I don't know. I mean, whatever. Like I said, the deck has, Miri's Guile, Wild Growth, Exploration, Solitary Confinement type stuff that is super mid. Sterling Grove isn't really that exciting because of Vision Charm and also just being card disadvantaged in general. Like, there are ways around and through the Enchantress deck, but you kind of have to rely on. You do have to rely on a fair number of things going right. Like, so it's like if Rich's like Xantid Swarm is just like Carpet of Flowers instead, he's in a better spot. So.
I think Rich posted on Instagram his response because Luis was asking how I possibly had beaten Rich 2-0 because if Enchantress has Carpet and Xantid Swarm, it's dramatically in their advantage. I saw Rich posted, but I did not read what he posted. So
too busy, so you just like big timed him, huh?
I was starting the podcast with you. I just saw a notification that he had posted on Instagram.
So you replied to that, and then Luis said that. And Rich says, Tide has fallen out of favor, and the matchup is still great without Carpet. So it sounds like he just didn't play Carpet.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he did not have Carpet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Carpet is like when I played against 10 Arms in the side event in 24, he had Swarm but no Carpet, and the Swarm was just in play for 5 turns, and like I just tided him 5 times. He won that game because of a blunder on my side, but like the game itself was not going to go in his favor and it would have been 1-1, so we would have to play game 3. But like I think the Tide combo alone was like pretty effective against Xantid Swarm because like you just do it on your turn, and they don't have any mana on their turn, and each time you do it, you pick up a permanent of theirs. Like, there's another reason why you should have 3 Chain of Vapors and 3 Tides, right? It's because, like, against Enchantress, if they don't have Carpet of Flowers, you just tide them forever, and they just never have a land in play. And then from that point, you can kill them with any number of cards. Or you can just board in Brain Freeze and stifle the Blessing trigger. That's been like the funny thing. But I guess I would say this. It's like I would sooner not play Blessing than Carpet of Flowers in my anti-blue sideboard plan for the Enchantress deck.
Rich definitely had Blessing. He cast many Blessings.
Yeah. I would like Blessing is like, to me, the narrowest card in the Enchantress deck because it's kind of only good in, I don't know, the Mirror or it's good against blue decks, which Carpet of Flowers is better against blue decks, and then like against other decks you would rather it just be replenished or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's at least interesting. Like the guy's Blessing is like the hedge for the 4 counterspell plan.
I disagree. I think that Blessing is really good in the case that you're just playing a card drawing removal control deck. Imagine you're just playing the Sam Black model where you're just like, okay.
No, I don't have to. I'm not interested in imagining that because I'm playing a combo deck, right? I'm not playing a card draw removal deck. I'm playing a combo deck.
No, this. You could just play a different mode.
But against what decks do you need that?
I mean, you win by definition if you destroy all of your opponent's ways to win and draw like 3 cards.
Right. But you that needs to be better than the alternative, right? I'm just saying
That's just another plan.
You need to define like the subset of the games where like your opponent is like, one, we're comparing Carpet of Flowers to Guy's Blessing, right?
Yeah.
So the deck has to like not contain a litany of islands, right? It needs to
actually. Let me just interrupt you for a second. What I'm saying is, in response to your comment that Blessing is the most narrow, I think Carpet is much more narrow than Blessing. Blessing has additional applications. Like, you could bring in Blessing against Oath Panza and win at an exhaustion game. Carpet is only good against decks that have 1,000,000 islands. There's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I think that I don't mean narrow. I think it's too thin. Like, I just don't think that it improves your win percentage or win likelihood, because we don't talk about percentages anymore. I don't think it improves your likelihood to win matches more so than Carpet Flowers, right? Like, Carpet Flowers is like first of all, Rich A has to use all 8 cards to defeat Justin, right? Like, he needs to have access to all of them, and like, he continues to access all of them. I don't think Rich has like has come down on his number, and like, that's what it takes to beat like the AK Tide iteration of the deck. And fundamentally I agree, and I also think that like, the AK Tide deck, like, Justin stole one out of recent Massachusetts thing, because I think he had 1 brain freeze, and so he just did the brain freeze stifle plan, and it's just like,
Justin won that match, right?
That was the one match he's like 1-7 against Rich over like the last 7 meetings, right? But that's the one that he won. And like, if I'm the Enchantress player, I would just be like deeply annoyed at the concept of my opponent having access to brain freeze stifle, right? Because like, if you consider that they can once more go into like 4 counterspell mode, they can go 4 counterspell mode, cast all 4 of the counterspells in one turn, and then just brain freeze stifle you on the back end, and then you just lose. It's just kind of like pretty disgusting. So what do you have to do now? You have to play 3 Guys Blessings. It's just kind of like down the rabbit hole.
I think that entire plan is contingent on being the kind of the AK Flash of Insight build, because if you don't have enough cards in your hand,
of course you're the AK Flash of Insight build, right? But that's like the build. That's the point. Like, that's the build. If Enchantress is going to be like, continue to be like this tier 1 deck bogeyman type thing, then like, there's not a lot of excitement over playing Jam Dreadnought, because Jam Dreadnought looks a lot worse against Enchantress, unless of course you get lucky and you just are on the play game 1 and are on the play game 3.
Well, if you're on the play game 1 and there's a game 3, you're going to be on the play.
Yeah, that is how it works. Yeah, but I think that like, I think the idea of Enchantress being ahead is something that only happened because Rich had 8 sideboard cards. Like, I think that when you're like, oh, I'm going to play 5 sideboard cards instead, like, you are that much worse, right? It's not like he didn't use all 8 of those cards. He used all 8 of those cards, and he continues, I believe, to use all 8. He can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that he would never cut Blessing from the list, and I have a feeling that he wouldn't cut Carpet of Flowers, but I guess I'm not sure. But that's my current take on the matchup, is just that, like, it is the combination of all of those things, not the least of which, because you're sometimes not going to draw one Swarm, 1 Carpet, 1 Blessing, right? Sometimes you're going to need to, cobble this stuff together and find a way. And it just feels like there's a lot of different ways you can figure out to lose from the Enchantress side, even if you're favored going into game 2 and 3.
So I used all my sideboard cards. So against Chris with Green White Oath, I sided in 11 cards. I sided in everything except for Essence Flare. Against Elves, I sided in the 4 Essence Flares, Annul, and Powder Keg. And I sided out a lot of my free counter spells. Because I don't think the Elves matchup is a counterspell matchup. Like, no, if they have, it's really not a counterspell matchup. It's like you need to prevent them from getting critical mass kind of matchup, and you're just kind of gonna win on card advantage, hopefully. And then the Enchantress matchup, again, I sided in a shit ton of cards. I sided in Annul, Essence Flare, basically everything but Dominate in the. So I sided in all the cards but Essence Flare, or all the cards but Dominate in 2 of my 3 matches.
Yeah.
So that means that my
and you're playing Essence Flare instead of Blue Blast here.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's the hedge, right? So is Essence Flare worse than Hydroblast against red decks? Yes, obviously. But it does a lot of work, right? Like it can stop a first turn
Yeah,
goblin.
it's close enough. It's
Yeah,
like it's not great when you need like when there's like a pyroblast on the stack. But you know, the rest of the time it does exactly enough.
But man, did I kill a first turn Llanowar Elf and then successfully daze a survival of the fittest. That's a thing that happened. Can't complain, you know? Right? Like
That's actually ridiculous. I am not brave enough to have days in my deck after sideboarding against elves.
so it was a thing that happened, and well, here's the thing. Essence Flare kills an elf.
Yeah.
Kills a bee, kills a goblin, kills a hound. There's all kinds of things that'll kill.
Yeah, I got my play set.
So and the other thing about it is I probably would have still beaten Rich if I didn't have the double Essence Flare trample play, but like that went a long way because that made my Mistress Factory lethal the next turn. And
Yeah, I mean it's just like one of those like use it if you got it situations, right? You're not like you don't have Essence Flare because it can deal 2 damage, but every now and then it deals 2 damage, and that's
6.
worth a couple turns, right? So I've got a deck, right? Pretty excited about it. It uses every card that is good and that I like. Moneyball Esper. I actually want to come up with a different name because it starts with Merfolk Looter and ends with Weathered Wayfarer. My favorite creature with an activated ability and my least favorite creature with an activated ability joining forces. What do you think of that?
So this is like basically Terrageddon, but instead of Terravores, you have Merfolk Looters. That's
Instead of Sylvan Library, you have Merfolk Looter, and instead of Terravore, you have Psychotog, right? So there's like basically there's been 3 things that I wanted to point out. First of all, you know, trying to put Merfolk Looter and Weathered Wayfarer together was like something on my mind. I basically just like gave up pretty quickly. But then we had the Looter episode, and Bryce pointed out on Sam Black's Moxfield, he just started adding decks to adding cards to a file that was just like Looter Wayfarer Mox, right? Of course, and I started
Andy is also obsessed with
Wayfarer,
Wayfarer now. Yeah.
And Andy also said something a while back that was like in our hot takes episode. One of his hot takes that we didn't cover was that he thinks that the best Gush Mox Diamond Meddling Mage deck doesn't have the color green in it, right? Which is basically to say like it is not a Grotog deck, Lanny. It's something else. And I've basically been in this camp for a while on just being like, there has to be something here. Supporter of the podcast, Bryson, Slow King online, has been playing quite frequently the Cataclysm Weathered Wayfarer deck with Psychotogs and like, you know, a rotating package of like Armageddon sometimes, Tide package other times, and random control cards. And I was playing a Gush Diamond Esper mid-range deck that just like had like control cards and 4 Psychotog. And you know, it was like all in on, it was like a Psychotog, it was basically like a Psychotog deck, right? 4 Gush, 4 Fact or Fiction, but I was splashing Vindicate and Swords of Plowshares because, you know, I think that those cards make sense in that deck, and just trying to figure out what the rest should be. That was like a deck I didn't typically run Meddling Mage's main deck. And so finally I was like, okay, Gush, Diamond, and then we just like don't run any blue card draw besides Gush and like maybe a couple Factor Fictions, and we just like play Looter instead of the card draw, and then we play Weather Wayfarer because our Looters get plowed, right? So it's like you play Weather Wayfarer, gets plowed, and you're like, okay, fine, Looter, right? And Looter turns every card in your deck into a cantrip. So then you just like have the rest of your deck is dedicated to room for activities. The only problem is if you have this Weathered Wayfarer deck, you have to play like stupid lands in it that you have like no interest in.
Okay, here are the things that first of all, I kind of like both of these 1/1 activated ability kings, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
But like
sorry.
your deck is
The
like
root
1/1s.
the root question is, what should we name this deck? I wanted it to be like Super Friends, like Esper Super Friends, but they're not super. They're just like Esper, like,
Why don't we call it volcanic spray dot deck? Like that,
dies to volcanic spray. Yeah.
no, just volcanic spray dot deck.
Yeah.
That might be a name of it. Another one that might be a name of it would be.
Well, I wanted to call it Esper Cheons, but they're not exactly Cheons. They're more like, I don't know what they are. They're kind of Bobs, honestly. Can I call them Esper Bobs? Because they're basically both Bobs.
Well, no, each one is kind of half a bob.
Yeah, each one's half. Well, yeah, Weathered Wayfarer is a Bob. And then
It's most of a bob.
together, yeah. And then, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Esper Bobs, okay.
well, when both are together, it's better than a bob.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's better than a bob for 50% more mana and an ongoing.
They're like 0.75 Bobs. Like they're basically Bobs. I mean, one's half the mana of a Bob, except for you have to activate it with mana, and the other is the same mana as a Bob, and it basically does the same thing as Bob.
I mean, you can't claim that one is half the mana of a bob when like
It costs 10
pays
mana.
100% additional mana each turn, right? Like it's like 600% of Bob's.
I think Esper. I'm like into Esper Bobs though right now. Esper Bobs is the front runner. I was gonna be like the Esper Goonies because gooning is like a new. Yeah. But then, and they're like activating, so that's kind of like tap. You're just like activating is kind of like gooning, right? But I don't know. That felt a little thin because people might think about Goblin Goon or whatever. So
what's really thin
Esper
is
Bobs.
the toughness on these creatures.
Yeah.
In a format where one toughness is very bad and the Ascendant deck has Volcanic Spray.
I think that I am very weak against Volcanic Spray specifically, and like the burden of my deck is going to be like letting the other parts of it be really good against Volcanic Spray, right? So I fundamentally agree with you. Like in a deck with Oath and Volcanic Spray is going to be a headache for my Meddling Mage and 8 1/1s squad deck. However, I do have the edge of being able to like put Psychotog in play and eat all my lands against Terravor, and have like raw card advantage in the form like if Oath isn't on the battlefield, like Weathered Wayfarer is like my Weathered Wayfarers are going to be better than every other Weathered Wayfarer because I have Gush, right? So I can always keep my land count low, and even if the opposing deck has like Mox Diamond or whatever, like I can like manipulate in that way. I kind of use the same strategy that Terragon decks would use to beat Terravor Oath decks back when either of those decks were playable.
I love that Gush makes Weathered Wayfarer it's constantly on, but like I fear like you're just gonna glut cards in hand without being able to cast any of the cards in hand because you have returned all of your lands to your hand, right? So that's like a bad choke, like. If you think about the limiting factor of card advantage, it's typically like how many of those cards.
Right. So that's actually
this is a bad nombo.
But that's why Looter is so important in the deck, right? Because Looter, every time you activate its ability, it is actually like 1 mana of value, right? Because if you're going to cycle a card in your hand, it generally costs 1. But tapping Looter,
but you're not doing. But you're like cycling a card to like. I don't know how I put this. So cycling a card isn't exciting.
Well, right? It is what you would be doing instead with like, okay, so I fundamentally agree with you, right? Because I as a player, you must be familiar, am generally like a low curve player. And that's like part of the problem with these like Terrageddon decks where Terrageddon just feels like this like really high curve deck. Even if its curve isn't literally high, right? The most expensive spell is just like Armageddon or whatever. It's just like Richardson Port and Treetop Village are like very high on the curve.
It's like 5 mana to use a
Yeah.
Like it's like 7 mana to
it just
think.
Yeah. I haven't read the card recently, but it definitely feels like that. And so to address your concern, like you only need to cast as many cards as your opponent does, right? And as a result, the Gush Wayfarer thing, and obviously Mox Diamond is like a huge bailout here. The Gush Wayfarer thing means that generally speaking, the pattern is going to be like, I have 2 lands in play. Opponent has 2 lands in play. I like play a fetch land. My opponent plays their 3rd land. I crack the fetch land. I get my 4th land with Weathered Wayfarer, right? I play my 4th land. My opponent plays my 4th land. I tap all of my 4 lands for mana. I pick up 2 islands. I gush. I draw 2 cards. I play a Mox, and then I play a 3rd land, and my opponent has 4 lands in play, and then I get to activate Wayfarer again. And then I can also, do the Wasteland trick, and then I can also get, of course, if I didn't draw Merfolk Looter, I could just draw Merfolk Looter's home, the Cephalid Coliseum, and just go pick that up. And then, that's a land that sacrifices and, effectively takes care of all this extra cards that you have in hand. And the sum result is a surprisingly functional deck that is kind of feels like mid-range, but has like a lot more power than mid-range. It was basically like
because the Psychic Talk can close the game out.
Well, yeah, you just play Psychic Talk. Like I also just like added the 61st card. I was just like, well, I think I need a Wonder. And then my very first match with the deck, I'm playing against Survival Rock, and the battlefield is just like me and 10 Bobs and 2 Psych Dogs, right? And them with like, I don't know, anything in their deck, and like Survival Rock still cannot defeat a creature with flying. So like I just eventually draw.
Don't they have Withered Wretch?
Well, okay, sorry, I had to vindicate a Withered Wretch. My bad. Okay. But it's like 1 copy, right? Or I like Plowshare. So all I have to do is Plowshare is 1 copy of Withered Wretch, right?
Ooh, maybe I should play Survival Rock in the league finals. No one would see that coming.
Yeah, but they wouldn't need to see it coming, right? It's kind of like like no one needs to see, like, I don't know, like a very out of shape murderer, right? I didn't see it coming, but I can still outrun you anyways.
Well, I'm just saying no one would see it coming. And there was a time when you were under the impression that this was one of the best decks in the format.
Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? It's so bad. It's such a disappointment.
So here's my the reason I played Dreadnought, other than needing to go 3, I was like literally 3-0 is the only record that mattered that I could possibly have. Was because I was just like, oh, maybe I'll change people's perception of my range, right? Like everybody knew I was going to play Burn last time, right? Like even if I played a weird Burn deck, I'm on the play.
Land put Dreadnought into your range for the league champs last time.
Yeah, but he thought I was going to play Burn or Stompy.
No, but he included Dreadnought in that.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, maybe they'll increase their perception of my range if I have Dreadnought. Because I was gonna be like, what's the polar opposite? What's the furthest I can get from here? I'm like, I'll play Goblins. You know what's really powerful on the play? Goblin Lackey into Rishodon Port. That's what I was thinking. But then I played Dreadnought, and I'm like, why would you play other decks? This deck is really good.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's bad about Dreadnought is that you can beat it sometimes. And well, like when you lose with Dreadnought, it feels unfair because you feel entitled to like winning every single match.
Every game, yeah.
Like it's not like so I play a few other decks, right? Like I play Grotog, right? This is like I play Grotog, I get paired against Burn and something. I'm like, ugh, tough matchup. I'm just gonna be like, I guess I gotta fight real hard, right? But I'm probably not gonna win this. Like when I play Dreadnought, if I get paired against anything, I'm just like, this one's a dub. And if my opponent somehow wins, I'm just like, well, that was unfair. I was just like, my deck is better. I drew more cards. Like I tided you.
I just 3-0-6-0'd with Dreadnought, right? And then I played Dreadnought one other league this year. I don't remember if it was this season or last season. And I went 2-1. And my performances with other decks are typically a 2-1 or a 3-0. So Dreadnought is like exactly average for me. Maybe a little bit better. I do have like 2 1-2s lifetime, but it is easier to win with Dreadnought. That's the thing that I would say. Like my win expectation, if I were to borrow the word expectation from the world of dead mathematics, is similar with Dreadnought as with other decks. But man, like you have to think so hard to win some of these matchups with Stompy. Like you really have to noodle it. But Dreadnought, man, like every sideboard card is a freaking all-star, and your main deck plan is unbelievable. It is, I don't know, it's really good. The main problem with it is if people know it's coming, anyone can beat Dreadnought if they want to. That's what I'd say. Anyone and everyone can beat it.
Not Oathponza, apparently. And Enchantress really, like I said, is relying on sideboard cards 6 through 8, it seems.
You need to want it.
And Replenish has to like board in 4 meddling mages.
I don't want to talk about this. I am 0 in my recent Replenish excursions against Dreadnought. Lost
and Terrageddon needs to like beat Dominate and
lost
like
to Bill.
I mean, my favorite thing, like, I don't know, it's just so many decks out there just lose to 1 deep analysis. I feel like I could categorize the format into decks that lose to 1 copy of deep analysis, and then decks that lose to like Opal Wave, and then good decks.
I mean, everybody loses to Opal Wave if Opal Wave resolves. Basically,
I mean, technically not Burn, and
that's true. Burn beats Opal Wave.
Yeah, and also like other combo, right?
Other Opal Wave decks, yes. Other Opal Wave
other Opal Wave decks and
Opal Wave.
Decks that, you know, mill your opponent, like Devourer beats Opal Wave.
Most decks beat Opal Wave unless Opal Wave resolves, in which case most decks lose to Opal Wave. But then, do you think who loses to 1 deep analysis? Burn doesn't lose to a deep analysis.
Yeah, Burn by this criteria. Burn is a good deck. By this criteria and this criteria only, right? But like, there's just like a giant swath of these like mid-range garbage decks that just like lose to 1 deep analysis. Like, if you do the equivalent of draw 3 cards at any point in time in the match, you just like win the game. This is like why my opinion of Terrageddon is so low, right? It's just like this is like the I can't like just spend this whole time shitting on Terrageddon. But I played Terrageddon with my Survival Madness deck last league, right? So I played against Terrageddon with my Survival Madness deck last league, and it was just like, okay, well, I drew a few cards off Survival of the Fittest, right? Like, my plan was, I just watched the video back. I was just like, oh, they're playing green-white Terrageddon. I guess the first thing I should do with my Survival is pitch Squeak and get Merfolk Looter. So once they disenchant the Survival, I'll have Merfolk Looter in play, and then they'll lose to Merfolk Looter. Yeah, like, I was just like, good. That's all it took. And for what it's worth, I actually did kind of gas out. They like went Nimble Mongoose, like Call a Herd, like whatever. They put a bunch of 3/3s into play, and like my Merfolk Looter.
Very 2023 Italian Terrageddon deck you're playing against.
I mean, these Nimble Mongoose Terrageddon decks, they come in and out. And I actually was like, you know, trying to find all my Mongrels and Arrogant Worms in time. I did, but I ended up getting down to like, you know, 5 life or 3 life or whatever. So things could have gone differently. And then I like easily won, you know, whatever, game 2 or whatever it was. And then I played against Terravor Oath, but like a green-white Terravor Oath without Ponza. It was just like a Terravor mid-range Oath. And same thing, like I disenchanted Oath of Druids. I mean, I was like really lucky, right? They went Oath of Druids. I'm like, damn, that sucks. And then because I had like a Weathered Wayfarer in play, and I would have to like Plowshares it, or just chump block with it, and then Plowshares the first Terravor. And then I top decked a Vindicate, and I was like, okay, that doesn't suck anymore. And guess what? They didn't draw 2 copies of Oath of Druids. Because, like, how are they supposed to do that, right? And so I just had Weathered Wayfarer in play. And then eventually I had, like, Merfolk Looter in play or Psych Talk or whatever.
So, okay, listen, 100 Bobs. Here's my thought process for the league finals. I was thinking about
you should play Esper Bobs for league finals. Nobody will see it coming.
I was thinking about playing, not Esper Bobs, but just a regular Weathered Wayfarer deck with green, right? And Terravors. But then I was just like, I have the play in the entire top 8. Like, a Weathered Wayfarer
decks are like really good on the draw.
Right? Like, this is like exactly when you don't play the Weathered Wayfarer.
Mox Wayfarer go.
I mean, like, I can just imagine Andy Levine like looking over my shoulders. This is not how you do it. This is not how you do it.
To be fair, whenever Andy Levine spectates any of our games, that's like what he's thinking. He's just a bunch of fucking amateurs. Like,
why didn't you just like double lava dart the Phantom to show up? You would have just gotten there. Shut up, Andy. No, nobody wants your opinion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, also Andy's the best red player. I forgot that he won Bah Humbug with Mono Red. Yeah, so he's like literally the best red player and the best Terravor player and the best Tide player.
Yeah.
What a jerk. And nice. Like, why can't he be mean? Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
Nothing to dislike about him.
That's like the big problem with SWB. He's the nicest guy. He's like a terrible enemy.
He's a bad killer. Yeah. He's like not a good villain.
You just want the best for him in life? Like, it's tough. It's a terrible enemy.
Yeah, okay? It's tough. Yeah.
Anyway, so
No heels in here. We're just like, I guess you're the heel.
I've been the heel for 20 years. Anyway, so I was like, this is just not the time to be playing Weathered Wayfarers when you're on the play the entire top 8. So I was just like, oh, I'll play Stompy. I was like, I always do really well with Stompy. But my thought with Stompy is weird. It's just like, I'm like seriously considering playing Stompy, but I wouldn't play elves. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you're willing to play Stompy, you should at least entertain playing elves.
Yeah, that's where you were at for the last finals. You're just in the same death spiral. And look, at the end of the day, I think it's like very important for you to like stop yourself from letting any mathematics enter your train of thought and just like let your soul decide. And like I said, I think you just play your stupid Dreadnought deck and then like just be done with it and like leave it to your opponents to figure out how to beat it. You know, like that's just the beginning and end of the story.
I mean, you're just declaring on the Spike Colony that I'm going to play Dreadnought now,
and then you play Esper Bobs.
Man, they're going to. Well, I'm like first turn Caves of Koilos. They're never going to.
I do not play Caves of Koilos. I'm a Weather Wayfarer deck, so I get to play 1 Gemstone Mine, 1 Dromar's Cavern, 1 City of Brass. I have 8 fetches, right? The other thing is, okay, the final note. I have to get back to work. I want to play more than 60 cards in this deck so that I mitigate the amount of shitty lands in the deck.
I am not playing more than 60 cards.
69
I know the math is dead.
Card Esper Bobs.
Dead, but it's not that dead.
All right, just hear me out. You have a Cephalid Colosseum, you never want to draw it. You have 3 Wastelands, right? You have to have a minimum of 3 Wastelands. 2 Wastelands is not enough. So you have 3 Wastelands, but you never want to draw those.
With 3 Wastelands.
Sounds
fucking ingenious.
Because you never want to draw a Wasteland, but you have to have them in your deck for your Weathered Wayfarer to pull them out when you need them.
Also dramatically reducing the likelihood of getting Mox Weathered Wayfarer.
I don't care about Mox. The rest of my deck is fine. I just need I don't think of my Esper Bobs deck as having like a lot of power outliers, and they also have like a lot of parts that are like vaguely functioning in the same way, right?
I have never heard such a sales pitch.
I
don't think about my deck having a lot of power outliers. Oh, really? See, I'm not confused by any Fire Blasts or Phyrexian Dreadnoughts. We've got 1/1s for any number of castles.
I have
got 1/1s for 1.
I have a 1/2 for 3. Thank you very. Okay, so I've got 8 Bobs. I've got 4 Togs. I've got 8 Bobs. That's like a good. That's a good
4.
situation. If I wanted to have 10 or 12 Bobs in a 69 card deck, then I'll just like add Sylvan Library or whatever nonsense. But the point is, I want to play like 8 fetch lands in this deck, but I keep on running out of things to fetch like immediately because I'm playing 4 island, 1 swamp, 1 plains. So I want to go to
deck has 4 islands.
Well, I got 8 fetches. So I was like literally I was like literally like in these spots. I'm like, well, I discarded 1 island to Mox Diamond earlier, and I used another island on a foil. I'm like, and I've got 1 island play, so I got 1 island left in my deck. I'm gonna go.
Island is work real hard.
I'm gonna go fetch that. I'm gonna go fetch that island so that I can cast Discussion 3 turns. But that problem is solved if I just go to 69 cards and I get to play 6 islands with 8 fetches, and then we're like totally in the clear. Esper Bobs is super real.
Additional spells to keep the balance.
Yeah,
just add 9 lands to your.
No, yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right? So a Weathered Wayfarer deck wants to be like a land tax style. Like land tax decks, if people don't remember correctly, they had 17 or 18 lands. Weathered Wayfarer functions very similarly to land tax, and so
it can get lava darted.
Let's set that aside for a moment. Like, if we're just analyzing how the deck is constructed, right? The problem I have with Weathered Wayfarer decks is that they have a lot of air, right? And they have a lot of air because the typical Weathered Wayfarer deck right now has like 3 Richton Port, 3 Wasteland, 4 Treetop Village, 2 Lairs. Like, they don't even have enough room for like on color pain lands and fetches, right? They're like playing plains, forest, 3 Windswept Heath, like 0 brush, like they're doing all sorts of crazy nonsense. And at the end, like when all the dust is settled and you've counted up all these cards, you're sitting there, you're like, oh, I've got 28 lands in my deck. 28 lands, 4 Mox and 4 Wayfarer. And like the reason I want to go to like 69, and I'm just choosing it because it's the sex number and it's nice. But
why is it the sex number?
I don't know. It's just something that people invented. I have no knowledge of stuff things. You'll have to ask Ariana Grande. Anyway,
You have a number?
I want. I think
have
it's.
it asked.
I think it's 34, 35. The point is, I want my Wayfarer deck to have like 19 lands, right? But the problem is, like, 6 of those lands need to have an activated ability that's like kind of not a mana ability or not a good one, right? And I'm like, so now I only have 13 mana producing lands.
A good one? Like, what would be an example?
Wasteland.
Of a not a good one?
Wasteland is like horrible.
That one's good.
It's name a deck that Wasteland is good against.
Oath Ponza.
Mid.
Elves. I'm just naming decks.
Elves is not good against elves. You're not going to Wasteland elves out of the game.
Oh, who do you Wasteland out of the game?
Like just replenish. Teeged is a good example. Like replenish, Teeged, and sometimes Devour, right? So like Weathered Wayfarer.
Not even Devour, man. You don't have time to fucking Weathered Wayfarer. They just killed you.
You might get lucky. So I mean, if you have other stuff going on, right? If you like Weathered Wayfarer plus Disenchant, you might be fast enough. But like the point is, like, why is Weathered Wayfarer good? Weathered Wayfarer is good is because it can solo a deck, right? Like a landstill deck can just like never beat a Resolved Wayfarer, right? And so that's good. But why is it good? It's like, okay, well, because you can chain Wastelands. And a lot of decks lose to chaining Wastelands. But the thing is, all the decks that don't lose to chaining Wastelands, you have a deck with 4 Wayfarer and 4 Wastelands in your deck, and you're just like, man, this sucks. Like, you think of your Dreadnought opponent, they're just boarding out their Mistress Factory and they're like gush dazing and they're just kind of like, okay, cool, I guess I'll get a Treetop Village. I guess I'll get a Rishon. So then they went deeper down the rabbit hole. They're like, okay, Wasteland doesn't work in every matchup. Let's go for Rishon Import. It's like now you have these Rishon Imports. It's like, okay, well, there's still some decks that are kind of indifferent to Rishon Import and Wasteland, right? Like Burn can probably get around it. Like Goblins, sure, point port is annoying, but again, they can like sometimes get around it. Elves is just like, who cares? Like I've got plenty. Like if you want to spend 2 mana to deal with 1 mana, I've got 5 more mana where that came from, et cetera, et cetera. So there's like a lot of decks that are kind of indifferent. Like Replenish is just like if they go basic, Frantic Search, or just basic Soul Land, you're cooked. Like many such examples. So you have this deck that's like bending itself into knots, trying to like make this Weathered Wayfarer card just like solve the problem for everything. And my elegant solution is just like, look, let's just make it so that the Wastelands comprise less of our deck overall and move on with our lives.
And also, you ceiling how good the Wastelands can be in the matchups where they are good.
Well, I believe that it is better to have like 4 Wayfarer, 3 Wasteland, so that like you only need 3 Wastelands to like waste somebody out of the game, right? And listen, if you're listening to all this and you're just like, Laney, I think you should just play 2 Wastelands. I think that's probably true.
No one had that thought.
That's what Slow King Bryson does, actually, right? His mana base is 20 lands, and his utility lands are just 2 Wasteland and a Cephalid Coliseum. And he has no, like, his Black Splash doesn't include Vindicate, so it's like a blue-white deck that's splashing 3 copies of Psychotog. So he's casting Psychotog off. There's no swamps in his deck. There's no polluted deltas. So for what it's worth, he's been playing this deck for months. I've played my deck for 5 matches. Go with it. And I'm proposing going up to 69 cards. You can just take Bryson's deck and add 4 Merfolk Looter, and you probably get closer to the answer than whatever I'm doing. But if you will humor me, I think you could build a Weathered Wayfarer deck, because then you can just be like, well, I don't want to have 1 out of 60 of my cards be Core Haven, but I'm kind of okay with 1 out of 69 of my cards being Core Haven, because I probably won't draw it.
Okay. I like Core Haven. I mean, if you're the Core Haven kind of person, I like Core Haven.
Yeah, but if you're so let me ask you a question. If you're in the Wayfarer business, right? What do you want to pull out with your Wayfarer? Like, my proposal is you want 3 Wastelands, you want 1 Core Haven, you want one Nantuko Monastery.
Nantuko Monastery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't Nantuko Monastery awesome?
I was thinking Trevor's Ruins, maybe Core Haven, Rishodon Port, Wasteland, and then really like Tranquil Thicket, Secluded Steppe is really what.
Oh yeah, so you just built Terragedded.
Like that.
So earlier on, I identified the problem, which was just like this Terrageddon deck looks super bad because it ends up having 35 mana source, like it's like 35 nothings. Yeah,
you like correct your having too many lands problem by having some of them cycle.
Yeah,
and you double correct it by searching for the cycling lands and then cycling. You just like kind of build your own drifting meadow, right? Like,
so
how do I make a drifting meadow?
So
I tap white to get.
I do believe that the shortcut.
I
think the shortcut to turning all your lands into cycling lands is just to play the one Cephalid Coliseum. Like you can play one Cephalid Coliseum and it does the work of 3 Tranquil Thickets, right? So like you can definitely skip that. And the only downside is the taps are blue. So
it also damages you.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you don't draw it. Like I said, like.
Dude, I'm already flipping out about next week. I'm like, I can't. Every deck in Dell's range is good against Dreadnought, I think.
You know what deck has no bad matchups is Esper Bobs.
It has no good matchups?
It's pretty good against... Okay, so it's pretty good against Terravore decks. And it's pretty good... Like, it's pretty good against... like all mid-range. I beat Survival Rock. That was like pretty easy. It was like it took forever. It took all 50 minutes or whatever, but like my gameplay in the entire time was like rock solid, right? And then I lost to Dreadnought, but I didn't play that well. And then I beat Dreadnought and I was like playing average. Like, this is just a 4 meddling mage deck with like lots of interaction. So I don't know. It's like, for enjoyers of mid-range decks, it's like, pretty exciting, and you get to be playing. I don't know. You get to play Merfolk Glitter, which is like very exciting. And if you're already cutting all the blue blasts from your deck, anyways, you might as well just play a deck that loses to red. But I do have Get and Chill, right? I still have like Get and Chill plan. So
you're also still your GAT or your game.
Yeah. I just cut all the green cards in the cantrips.
Actually. Is GAT a good deck to play if you're on the play the whole top 8?
Yeah, I mean GAT's just a good deck all the time. It's never been bad. It's good on the play, good on the draw, good in game 2.
You're just saying words now. Like these are just, we don't mean those words. You're just saying them. Like,
I mean, it's definitely better in game 2 than it is in game 1. But
in every matchup.
Yeah. I think
it's weird. People like, I side in these Exalted Angels in every matchup. Interesting. Why don't you just play them?
I mean, sometimes that is correct. Replenish is a great example. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that you should stress. I think that you should play like one of the decks that are good, and like, or you should play Stasis with 4 Black Vice. Just run it back.
Stasis 4 Black Vice on the play. Oh. I think Dell is going to play a green-white creature-based deck. His range is green-white creature-based deck, other green-white creature-based deck.
Range is uncapped. He can play literally anything.
Survival Tinker, Enchantress. And he beat me at Sacred Torch with Fire Diamond and Felden's Cane.
Yeah, I don't know.
Literally Fire Diamond and Felden's Cane.
Stay on the straight and narrow. Your deck selections are Esper Bobs, excellent deck. Mono Blue Dreadnought, excellent deck. Replenish, excellent deck.
Burn.
I would openly discuss Burn on the public forum that is this podcast to like keep your opponents on their toes, and then I would privately tell you that if you play Burn in this thing, you're just like a complete moron. Like
I played Burn last time.
Yeah,
I only lost one match. I lost it to land, but
yeah, you lost the very first match in the elimination top 8. Yeah, lest we forget.
Wow.
So there's your options: Esper Bobs. Replenish.
I love how Esper Bobs is just like first on the list, but Burn, I'm a moron if I play. It only has 60 cards. It has no waste.
Look, if you want to play 60 card Esper Bobs, I'm not going to stop you. I do agree that drawing your Bobs more often is pretty good. I do agree that Wayfarer on the draw is certainly a lot better, but it's like still good on the play, right? So you just go Wayfarer Fetch Land, right? So you just go Wayfarer Fetch Land, and then your opponent's
I'll play Esper Bobs in like the first league of the next season, maybe. I can't play a Wayfarer based deck if I know I'm on the play the entire top 8. That's silly.
I don't know. You got to keep more than one landers. All right.
I thought that your whole argument of me is I don't have enough mulligan discipline.
Yeah, but that's why this supplements your leak, right? If you were able to patch your mulligan leak, then I would say that you should play all in Dreadnought. But because you don't have enough time to patch that leak, you should play Esper Bobs. You never mulligan a hand with this deck. There's nothing you can mulligan.
I'm never looking at a hand with 2 islands and 2 accumulated knowledges on the play and not saying keep. Like, it's never gonna happen.
I've kept like a ton of my Esper Bob hands. They've just been super. Like, was like, yep. I'm like, Merfolk Glitter, I'm in. Let's go.
Actually, super interesting. Playing for the belts against SWB last week, Lan watched this game. He actually sent me a bunch of long texts after the game. We split game 1 and 2. He's playing Parfait, Oath into Shard Phoenix, and Ancestor's Chosen. I'm playing Stompy. I got game 2. He's just like, wow, I just played really well to get game 2. Game 3, I mean, I'm up against this deck is 4 Plow, 4 Oath. This is a very bad matchup for me. I mulligan my first hand and keep my second hand, which is 3 lands, a Rancor, a creature, and a River Boa and an elf or something. And I kept it because I was a functional hand. In hindsight, I'm like, who actually loses to elf, River Boa, 3 lands, and a Rancor? I was like, is there a deck that loses to this hand? Right? Let alone the deck that Steven's playing. But Lan afterwards is just I think you had to mulligan it. Because I have north of 6 disenchants. I think it's 7 disenchants after sideboarding. I can't not mulligan into Tranquil Domain or Naturalize because Steven is just never going to keep a hand that doesn't have Oath access. And he just oathed me on turn 2, and that was that.
Yeah.
So I think and also nobody loses to the 3 fucking forest, 1-drop, 2/1, 1 pump spell hand. So
you probably have to mulligan your deck at that point if that's the case. But in any case, yeah, I guess if you have no mulligan discipline, you should not play anything besides Dreadnought. Because even Replenish, you kind of have to mulligan, and then Esper Bobs. Well, Esper Bobs you can play, but like we said, you're on the play, so Esper Bobs is less good. And then you can play Tide Control. Have Andy.
I don't have the skill to play Tide. I own my own Tide Control deck. I'm not good enough to play that deck.
Well, then we've narrowed it down. You play Grotog. Grotog keeps a lot of hands, and it's good on the play.
Burn keeps a lot of hands, and I'm good at Burn.
Yeah. Like I said, I would publicly say that's a good idea, and then just tell you that probably not do that. Probably not make the same mistake twice. Unless that's misdirection. All right. Love Spy Colony.
Bye. Love Mike.